Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Echelon Cycling Podcast, where we discuss what's been going on in the week of cycling and also look ahead to the week ahead, which actually is interesting because we're going to get more cycling. But as always, I'm joined by Mr. Kruger himself, Ewan Wilson, and Patrick Blake of Audi Cycling, and this is number 50. So round of applause, guys, round of applause.
And almost made one year now, guys.
Yeah, true.
We're almost there. I can't believe it.
Many podcasts have died before this, so we're doing well. And thanks to everyone who's been subscribing and commenting, etc. But we might as well start with, many people will watch the video over on the Cycling Date Extra, but there were some kit reveals, so we might as well complete our discussion of that here on the Echelon as well. And what did you think of the hideous Jaco Euler kit?
Well, first of all, it's not hideous. Second of all, it's very successful so far. Most successful jersey of the season after the Australian National Championships.
There is a point on that.
Yes.
Patrick, you said this to me. What was it that Caleb Ewan, he accidentally bumped someone?
Oh, yeah. I did. That was in the crit champs, which they kind of do count, but I just saw a video on Instagram. And it was in the final sprint where there was a crash. I saw that Caleb, the person who crashed, Caleb basically bumped into the curb. And it didn't look like an accidental bump. But that's by the by. But it's also very successful in terms of the road races because Australian National Champs has commenced, which means that depending on your cycling status, you may think that this is the start of a season or not. It's up for debate. Some people say it doesn't start until Omloop and Kerner. Some people say it's Tour Down Under. I personally thought it was the Bay crits, but then they cancelled those. So then, that whatever. But anyway,
some people it's the Gran Camino.
For some people it is. For some people it's the Giro, which is quite frankly wrong.
No, it's the Tour. The Tour de France is when the season starts.
Lombardia.
Exactly. That's what everything is just a prelude to Lombardia. That's the actual most important race of the year.
Or did the season even end? Or you've been enjoying the South American, Middle America races as well?
True. But the jerseys. Sorry. Jaco announced theirs with a big sort of identity change in terms of their color palettes. There's a big splattering of orange that's across the jersey and on their helmets and their bikes. I think this is a nice return for orange. Whoever thought a Celtic fan would be saying that? Yeah, I think it's really nice. It's very sunsetty. It's very Australian, if you ask me. Ayers Rock kind of vibe. Uluru, whatever you want to call it.
I have to agree. I'm sticking with it. I'm sticking with the opinion that we had over on the Cycling Day video. I think that it is still good. The kind of the view of, because of course, there's plenty of victories going on for Jaco Alula the last week, so you got to see it quite a few times. And I just think that it's unlike anything else in the peloton, and with a specific kind of increase in just fades of blue to other colours. I quite like the orange. It's just a good contrast. And, colour wheels and all that, orange and blue are complementary colours. So therefore, science says that it works.
And selfishly, it'll be easy to pick out at a bunch.
Yeah, it will be.
Which is very, very useful.
Scott still hates it.
Well, I think I made my position quite clear on this.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised you hate it so much.
It's just an eyesore. It shouldn't be. Okay. It shouldn't be. But I will grant you that it is quite refreshing that they haven't just gone for white or dark blue, which seems to be.
Mm-hmm. Do you prefer it over last year's Jaco kit?
Oh,
the kind of white and blue, because come on, that was a bit.
Yeah, that was boring as well.
Well, at least this is doing something. It's making you feel some emotion.
Rage,
which is a bad one.
But at least Luke Plapp won't have to wear this kit in either the time trial or in road races.
And they should stop giving Luke Plapp ordinary jerseys because he keeps seeming to wear the national champions kit. This is the third year in a row that he'll be wearing the green and gold of the Australian champion. Elsewhere, there's also EF. They dropped their kit this week, pink and yellow. The Giro and the Tour de France harmonizing on this EF kit. In the video we made over in the Cycling Data Extra channel, we were very positive about this. Do you remain positive about this jersey? I think it's very nice, leaning into their brand identity and continuing what's been a very, very good streak of EF Rafa jerseys.
This is a couple of red stripes away from being like a full Grand Tour jersey kit. Like
you say that, the bike includes red as well. So you got all 3 Grand Tour colours on the bike.
I'm sure Visma Lisa bike are going to be turning in their graves, thinking, we want all 3 Grand Tours to have a special bike with all the colours on it, and now they've just gone and put them on. They haven't won anything, blah, blah, blah. Go on, EF. Just well done for just spiting Visma Lisa bike in that sense. It's just hilarious. Imagine just like the clout of it. Just, I think it's still good. I'm looking forward to seeing it at Down Under and getting a sense as to, well, if you're paying real close attention, you would have seen Elizabeth Stannard, I think, wearing it in the women's road race, but I wasn't paying close enough attention. So we agreed it's probably the best kit of it for this year. I think that's pretty easy.
Speaking of the men's and women's road race, we also got another look at the DSM Feminich Post NL jersey. That name never gets old. And I mean, they had a couple of riders in the event. We were told a couple months back that maybe the jersey will change. They're still wearing the old style helmets. It could still change, but the jersey that we saw on display this weekend in Australia is interesting. I'll say that. It's white, blue, and orange all mixed together. I wouldn't say to much avail. It's, very unique. I'll say that. I know I'm praising Jake Al-Ula for pulling off some orange, but this one does the opposite. I think this really looks quite hideous. Nothing quite works together. It looks very dated. I'm not happy with this.
I do kind of agree. It didn't look like anything was harmonizing together. It just looked really kind of odd in a weird way. I can't describe it, but it just didn't quite look too appealing to the eye. It was just really odd. I couldn't tell whether the main kind of color palette was white or black. And it's just like, it just needed sorting out. It's fine, but it's definitely not going to be the best kit of the year, by far.
And also, like, what's frustrating about this? I mean, you mentioned black, is that, like, there's this weird thing going on where, like, the bike is black, the gloves that Chris Hamilton wore today are black, but there's no black anymore in the jersey. It's like a navy blue. That might just be because he hasn't got the new bike with the new features on it, but that just looks a little bit messy in my opinion. I don't think it quite works together.
It was just like 2 dark colors next to each other. It's kind of like your Lidl track, 2 different shades of something which are somewhat similar but kind of not, and it's just a bit like, am I losing my sight, or are these 2 different colors?
Also, just more in general as well about this jersey, it's that, like, I know DSM Feminich and Post NL are now both joining the team. Well, they're now co-sponsoring it. But it looks like these corporations were not at the same board meeting. It's like they had 2 different ideas and they've been separated on the jersey. Like the lower half of the jersey is white, orange, with the Post NL logo. The top half is the blue of DSM Feminich with their logo. And then on the sleeves, you have it half with DSM with the blue, then an awkward white patch with the Post NL logo. There's not much harmonization between the logos, between the 2 different color schemes of their sponsors, which I think also makes this look like a very Frankenstein and temporary kit. I'm hoping that they will change it halfway through the season. Teams have done this before. I'm not exactly thrilled about this, and I don't think this is the best start to their new collaboration as a team.
Yeah, I'm not really going to put any more on that. Yeah, I don't like the DSM. I thought it was fine, the one they had. Like, we've gotten used to it now. Uno X as well. I don't think we actually mentioned Uno X at all when they dropped theirs.
They didn't really drop anything new. They're using the kit from last year's Tour de France, which they were using on and off towards the end of the 2023 season. It's that Raymer collaboration where it's like half red with a splash of yellow through it. It's fine. I quite liked how the yellow was distinctive, but I guess now we have Visma Lisa bike in full yellow. Somebody else is taking up that space of being the very yellow kit in the peloton.
Yeah, I think it's good. It is quite basic, but it's an easy one to identify. It's very unique. I prefer it with more red than more yellow, funnily enough. I don't know why, but I just think that there's nothing like it in the peloton. It's not in the blue palette. It's very different. Yeah, it's also just a good one from the aerial shots, usually. Is Uno X, they're usually very identifiable. I think they're going to continue with that. So, yeah, I think Uno X have done an above average job there for sure.
Did you guys talk about Polti Kometa last week?
Oh, please, let's not. Patrick's going to be set off here. Yeah, well, we might as well.
It's awful. It's so bad.
It seems like we each have like one terrible kit, and well, Ewan's trigger point is a little trek for anyone who hasn't checked out kit review video.
Okay.
You can't defend Polti Kometa here. You just can't.
I don't think I can, but like I like the fact they tried so much. Like this would look okay, I think, if they had black shorts. I think the fact that they've gone for like red, orange, sort of pumpkin colored shorts is just horrific. And the announcement video with it being like a person ironing during it, which I thought was quite fun. It was quite camp. Leaning into, of course, Polti. I say, of course. Nobody knows this. Polti makes irons that you use to get crumples out of your clothes. I mean, this is definitely a downgrade. I say that. I'm not looking forward to seeing to the Giro. But at the same way, it's quite nice to have Italian teams having, this is going to sound like an awful backhanded comment, Italian teams having chaotic jerseys and very distinctive ones in terms of their color scheme, because like we've had some atrocious kits from Giro wildcard teams over the past couple of years. I mean, even the past 10, 20 years. So I'm glad we've now got another chaotic jersey that we'll only see at Italian races and not see anywhere else in the season. Because like Aolo's one, as much as it was nice, felt almost too crisp to be from an Italian continental or pro-continental team.
I mean, I think that's a good place to move on. Well, move back to the National Championships of Australia. I mean, did you guys watch it? Probably not. Not live. Luke Plapp winning the time trial. Luke Plapp winning the road race. Him and Chris Harper getting away. Basically a 1-2 on the line. Harper setting up and Luke Plapp crossing together almost, and then getting third place as well. It's very Jayco Oroki Green Edge, like completely wiping out the podium. And maybe they're going to do a similar kind of thing in the Tour Down Under now, because we've seen them kind of do that hat trick of events, I guess.
It was very dominant, overly dominant. But nobody else really stood a chance on the day, considering that usually like Green Edge, Orica, Jake Walula through the years have always had the biggest team because they are like the Australian World Tour team. Plapp was always sort of the Achilles heel. He was the kind of the maverick in there, just solo with Ineos. He could be the one to be trusted to like take it to them. Now that he's joined them, it is just like it was basically a foregone conclusion that somebody from Jayco was going to win, barring an absolute miracle. So Plapp winning a third one, part of me thinks it would have been cooler to have seen Chris Harper. I guess in terms of the longevity of like the jersey and it getting airtime, I guess Plapp maybe is a bigger name for Jake Walula to be kind of seen in that jersey than Chris Harper, but I still think that Harper is looking in really good form, and I think that he could be a really kind of key person for Jake Walula going into this year. He'll certainly be influential in the Tour Down Under because there's Simon Yates and Plapp and Harper, so I guess Harper's going to be kind of like the lead out man for, you know, the mountain lead out man for them. So I think that he's been growing through the years from like it's easy to forget that he was at Jumbo-Visma, and I think that he's kind of growing into a really good rider, actually, and I was quite happy to see him finish on the podium. I think I was well deserved. Might have liked to see him win though.
Exactly. I think last year, the Tour de France, he was almost the unsung hero. As a domestique, we're talking about Sepp Kuss and Adam Yates and how great they were, but Chris Harper was also fantastic in that Tour de France, really supporting Simon Yates throughout that race. And this year as well, his role will probably be stepped up, and this is a great sort of side of things to come for him. This could be his year.
I mean, Luke Plapp also won the time trial. And Patrick, did you tell me that he had a bike change or something during the time trial?
Yeah, I remember seeing that somebody drew a comparison to 2023. We're in 2024 now, still kind of getting used to that. In 2023, Plapp won the TT despite having a bike change, and somebody said, oh, he won again this year despite like the same thing happening, because they do a lap, like 2 laps for the TT. And on the first lap, he had a mechanical, and he still beat Harper by like 30 some seconds. So he probably would have won by somewhere near to a minute. So yeah, really good signs for Plapp. But it's also worth noting that he was very good last year in the Nationals. I mean, he didn't do anything in the Tour Down Under at all.
Oh, okay. I was going to say UAE Tour, he finished second. That was a good start to the season.
That's true. But then he also didn't do anything throughout the rest of the year. So it's kind of really hard to tell with Plapp whether he's going to, you know, is this just going to be like a 2-month flash in the pan, or, you know, he's going to the Giro. I think that might have been announced this week, and Simon Yates is going to the Tour. So it'll be really interesting to see whether Plapp can, you know, convert this to form outside of January and February. I really hope it is, because I think that he's a sensational talent, and I'm happy that he left Ineos, and I think that Jake Walula could be a really good place for him.
More widely, I think this is like, it demonstrates the fact that I mean, Chris Harper's a really good rider, but not necessarily a time trialist. This shows that the level of Australian time trialing is definitely taking a downturn in the men's side of things, because this used to be like a very highly competitive national championships for the time trial, and to see it sort of go down in its prestige is quite telling. To be honest, is Australian talent drying up? They're focusing on new things now. What is the future of Australian cycling outside of Luke Plapp? We aren't seeing a huge amount of Australian talent coming through and really sticking at the top of the World Tour level. We've had the couple guys at Lotto who just sort of fizzled out over the past couple of years. It's almost feeling like this land that was 10 years ago very fertile for new talent is almost losing its way.
Well, you and Luke Plapp, 2024, what's your opinion of what he could do for a season? And yeah, now Simon Yates isn't going to win the Giro d'Italia, so that prediction's out the window now.
Yeah, well, who else is going to challenge Pogacar?
Yeah, exactly. Who's going to get second?
Clutching at straws, Damiano Caruso. There we go. I don't know. I find Luke Plapp really hard to pin down. Like, for the past couple of years, maybe because it's the Ineos setup, I just haven't quite been able to identify him as like what rider type he could possibly be. Because he's had these sort of GC times where he's done well, but then the rest of the year sort of fades into obscurity. Maybe he is just this guy who does well in this sort of Southern Hemisphere calendar chunk. But I'm intrigued to see how he'll do at a Grand Tour. I know he's been to the Vuelta in the past, but for him to get his own chance at the Giro will be interesting. But at the same time, will it be sort of a bit of a futile run? Or are we going to have a bit like a Leonard Kemner situation where he goes for GC, finishes about 8th or 9th, and that's like, yeah, well, we proved a point. He can ride a top 10 in GC, and then he sort of slips back into being this wild card that he usually is.
I mean, the course would suit him, being such a good tester, and I mean, most of his reputation came from the track initially as well. Hence why Ineos Grenadiers were all over him. So yeah, maybe the Giro this year could line up a bit like Bradley Wiggins with the 2012 Tour de France, but Pogacar is in the way. There was no Pogacar at the 2012 Tour de France.
What else I find interesting about Plapp is that he hasn't been to many UCI World Tour stage races. He's only been to, just looking this one up now, about 4 in the 2 years he's been at the World Tour level. That's not that much. And he hasn't finished a couple of them as well. And the TT results aren't as earth-shattering as we might expect. So maybe he is just one of these guys. You get them sometimes where they're a phenomenon in Australia or in their home nation and can't quite export that onto the World Tour, onto the European level. Because looking at these time trialing results outside of Australia, I'm seeing 83rd at the Vuelta time trial in 2022. That was a flat one. 18th at the Romandie time trial in 2022 as well. 102nd at the UAE Tour in 2022. Last year, I don't think he even competed in a single time trial at UCI World Tour stage race. He did not. There was a stage at the Tour of Wallonia. He finished 80th place in that time trial. So I'm not necessarily convinced that
I withdraw my statement.
Well, no, but at the same time, it does raise point for suspicion, but it's all not suspicion, skepticism rather. And it is a new team. It's a new setup. Maybe things will change. We've seen that Jake Alula have been improving in their time trialing over the past couple of years. Then again, Ineos Grenadiers are also a great time trialing squad.
Well, anyways, now coming to our obligatory Mathieu Van der Poel race around wherever he is winning. And I mean, did you guys follow any of the cyclocross that's been going on? I mean, at this point, it's just Mathieu Van der Poel having victory laps.
It literally is. I don't want to be like ungrateful, but it is a little bit same with Van der Poel just kind of winning. I don't even think Pidcock and Van Aert were here. Van der Poel basically wasn't like on the front row. He got stuck behind some other people and then just launched this attack because everybody was running up this one hill, and then Van der Poel rode it one time in some like clear air and then just rode off, and that was that, and that's all that really happened. I wish there was more to talk about. Joris Nieuwenhuis came second, Lars Swake came third. Swake coming back a little bit after having a bit of a slow start to the year. Ron Haar was fourth, Isabit was sixth. Van der Haar didn't have a good day. He was in 8th place. Tiban Nace is in 12th place, so that's a big fall from where he was at the start of the cyclocross season, like 2 minutes down on Van der Poel. This just feels like a procession towards the world champs where Van der Poel's just going to win. In the women's race, Lucinda Brand was probably going to win, but then she face planted and she may have broken her nose. So she DNF'd that race, and then Puck Pietza won. Puck Pietza had a mechanical on like the second lap, I want to say, like a rear wheel change needed. So yeah, Brand probably would have won. because she had a decent gap, but Pietza ended up winning ahead of Van der Hayden, and Zoe Backstead came in third place. I'm not sure if that's Zoe Backstead's first podium of the World Cup this year. It is, so that's a pretty good result from her. She also won earlier in the week in Hexia Cyclocross Gullingen, which is a C2 level of race, but wins a win.
I'm going to make this joke once this year. Lucinda Brand was on fire today. Sorry, her surname.
She was also on the ground.
She stopped, dropped, and rolled.
Literally.
That's your contribution to the cyclocross part, Ewan.
Yes.
And anything to add, Scott?
We also had Cookshire, which is a very famous race with a lot of history. And here, Wout van Aert, he tried to go all out on the first lap and it kind of backfired and ended up finishing third. Pim Ronhard in second, Mathieu Van der Poel winning. It is very Formula One-esque. Dutch rider goes off the front and wins by the end. We've been there. The whole correlation between those two.
So that's cyclocross at the moment.
I'm surprised Ewan didn't mention Cameron Mason getting a podium.
Sorry, I didn't watch the cyclocross.
What? That's so
I'm sorry. As much as I like Van der Poel, I just don't tune into the Van der Poel experience every week.
No, but Cameron Mason was second in the Gulgum.
My boy, let's go. Let's bring out the flags. Let's sing the national anthem. Here we go. Oh, flower of Scotland, when will we see your likes again? Next segment, please.
The fought and died.
Hey.
Anyways, I think cyclocross is becoming a bit of a chore now because of the absolute dominance. It would have been good if we had a bit of rival, like a big back and forth between him and Wout van Aert, but it's crazy right now. I think it's 10 victories he's won this year, and I don't think it's going to be stopping. But nevertheless, Ewan, what is Red Bull doing in the sport of cycling?
Well, what are they doing? This week we had some interesting news come out on the sort of commercial business side of cycling, because Red Bull, the Austrian energy drink, is potentially acquiring a controlling stake of Bora Hansgrohe, as it's now known. Yes, this could mean that Red Bull will take over 51% of the team, which is enough to control it. What this could mean for the future will be very, very intriguing. We have seen Red Bull join the cycling a lot more in the past couple of years. We have Red Bull athletes competing at the top level of cycling, also in cyclocross as well. We have, of course, Wout van Aert, who we see with the Red Bull stuff all the time. Also Tom Pidcock. Anton Paltzer, who rides to Bora Hansgrohe as well, is a Red Bull athlete from his mountaineering background. And also with the Roglic transfer that we got at the end of 2023, there was also talk about the influence of Red Bull in securing that deal. And we've also seen Bora Hansgrohe athletes spotted at the Red Bull training center, including Primoz Roglic. The deal hasn't been formally signed yet, but I believe there's 2 weeks until we find out about this legally. Whether it's going to be approved or not. But for the two companies, I mean, surely it'll mean more money being pumped into Bora Hansgrohe as a cycling team. The team already has a somewhat Austrian identity. They're based in southern Germany, and they have had Austrian riders for a long time and a close affiliation to Austria, where the drinks people are from. And in terms of sort of what Red Bull have done for other sports as well, they usually do bring that money and also a lot more ambition and visibility to the sport. Of course, F1 is the example we can all think of. When they jumped in sort of the late 2000s, we saw Red Bull F1 become a huge phenomenon, with Vettel finishing second in 2009, then winning the season, then all the way up to Max Verstappen's current dominance of the sport. There's also other sports that they've jumped into, and they put cliff diving on the map. They've helped with other extreme sports. So it'll be interesting to see where this goes forward. Will the team be completely rebranded as Red Bull Cycling? I know many people have been dreaming about this day for a long, long time. Will it continue as Bora Hansgrohe? We don't quite know that yet. The season's only just begun, and this deal hasn't actually been enacted in law yet. So it's a very, very intriguing chapter in the story of Bora Hansgrohe.
Does this mean we're going to get Tom Pidcock and Wout van Aert going to Bora Hansgrohe maybe?
Yeah, it does kind of raise into question what's going to happen with them. I guess they can just remain Red Bull athletes, but it does feel a bit odd that they'll be Red Bull athletes going up against a Red Bull team, potentially. That seems a little bit odd that would be the case, whether they would have to, whether they're not allowed to wear the Red Bull stuff, or whether they decide to join allegiance with Bora Hansgrohe, who knows, that would be quite the team to have Wout and Alaton there with Primoz Roglic. Maybe that would help in him winning the Tour de France. It is interesting, and I do quite like it having such a big name like Red Bull. Some people I know, they probably don't like it, but we were ranting and raving a couple of months ago about Amazon and Apple potentially joining the sport. Obviously that hasn't happened, but Red Bull's still a pretty decent name, and getting that into the sport is quite a good thing, I believe, because like you say, you were very involved in so many sport, and they seem to just have this ever-present presence. That them being involved in road cycling, not just through some individual riders, but through a potentially, full designated team, I think that would be really cool. And also, I bet their kit would slap, personally. Can you imagine? They would actually have a pretty good kit with maybe, it would be the same colour scheme as Lidl track, but I bet they would do a better job.
Almost definitely. Also, what I'm intrigued about as well, because we saw it with F1 when Red Bull joined that one, is they had a whole new approach that sort of took them from the mid-table all the way to the top. They also had that feeder team, what was Toro Rosso, what's now called Alpha Tauri, or whatever it's called now. It'll be intriguing to see how they can do that here, because maybe it's a bit like sort of the Ineos network, where they have contacts and they bounce between all these different sports. Speaking of which, Dave Brailsford's been working with Manchester United this week after Jim Ratcliffe bought a huge chunk of shares in that club just before Christmas. So it'll be fascinating to see what innovations they could make for the years to come. Ralph Denk already is super ambitious. He's the guy who runs Bora Hansgrohe, and he has been quite innovative over the past couple of years. So this could be a really, really fruitful collaboration between the two. Ineos, shove it in your face.
I mean, just looking at it, like the history of the team, NetApp, all that, and then coming to this part of it, I think is quite interesting. And is Ralph Denk, is he Austrian or is he German?
I'm about to Google. Ralph Denk. I think he actually might be Austrian, but
So,
German. My bad. He's Bavarian, which is close to Austria. I know. Yeah, he's from Bavaria.
Do you think we're going to get like Primoz Roglic versus Max Verstappen racing up Alpe d'Huez, him in the F1 car? I would watch that video.
That would be pretty cool.
Well, for us, we could definitely get some good marketing stuff out of this in terms of like the videos and stuff online, with like collaborations with like Primoz Roglic goes skydiving, Sam Welsford tries cliff diving, these kind of things, because the Red Bull marketing team is like incredibly good. And I'm sure they'll have their little minions jumping on board with the cycling stuff as well. So prepare to see viral extreme videos of the Bora Hansgrohe team in the years to come.
Primoz Roglic ski jumping with a parachute and a bike.
That's so on brand. He should work for that marketing team.
Yeah. Well, Patrick was saying that many people were against the Amazon Apple takeover. You were not, Patrick. You actually wanted the big brands, the big names, to kind of elevate the whole sponsorship level of cycling. And I mean, Red Bull is so well known. But I mean, they're buying the team, so it's not like they're sponsoring. So there is a bit of a difference. So that's more of a long-term.
But then what does buying lead to? 51% control in the team. What's that going to lead to? Like, probably becoming Red Bull cycling.
Yeah, I just don't think road cycling is kind of like a
street.
It's not, obviously there's crashes and stuff like this, but it's not like downhill mountain biking where you're probably going to crash. How are you going to get your Red Bull crowd hyped up about stage 5 of the Tour of Austria on a flat stage?
They go really quick at the end, like really, really fast.
Really fast.
But these are still men who wear Lycra that's like 5 millimeters thick.
Yeah, I mean, it is crazy when you think about it. But yeah, I mean, anything else to add on Red Bull? Are we going to see Monsters being in the sport? Kind of with Mark Cavendish, that kind of thing.
Yeah. We've had a lot. I mean, there's been like Coca-Cola used to be in the sport prior to the kind of, US Postal thing. They were around. And yeah, then post that, it's kind of cycling's just taken a bit of a dip in terms of people wanting to be associated with the sport from a sponsor perspective. And it's just sort of, you can just only hope that through getting Red Bull in here, it's kind of like a show of confidence and other bigger brands get involved in it. And as a consequence, everybody benefits, and the sea rises, and we're all just boats getting elevated upwards.
It's also like consumer goods as well. Like you can go to the store and buy a Red Bull, where like Ineos is huge, but who's jumping online to buy chemicals and petrol and all that,
All the time.
That's what I spend all my time doing when I'm not talking about cycling online.
Yeah, but Ineos isn't actually for that. It's not for the chemicals company. It's for their 4x4 car, which I've never seen one. I've never seen one.
I have.
Oh, okay, there we go.
They're so big. It's honestly a turret away from being on the Ukraine-Russian border.
Will this then be used as like a vehicle for like Red Bull zero calories, zero caffeine, whatever, like
Probably.
Red Bull Twisted Tea, seltzer kind of thing or whatever?
I mean, it is better that they are buying a portion of the team or the controlling stake in the team, because that is the difference between Ineos Grenadiers and one of the other teams that just kind of get a sponsor attached to it, and then after 2 years, the sponsor disappears. Here, they actually have ownership. They have some skin in the game. So I like that part of it.
But then again, Bora Hansgrohe have been on this squad since 2017, and Bora's been there since 2015.
But what do you think is going to happen now? Is it going to be Red Bull, Bora, Hansgrohe, powered by Hansgrohe, whatever, however you get past the free name rule?
Red Bull Bora, powered by Hansgrohe. Imagine that. It's just like someone in a shower, like a Hansgrohe shower, drinking a Red Bull, and then afterwards, Jai Hindley goes to cook a steak on his little Bora extractor fan in his kitchen.
Oh God, are we going to see Roglic in a shower?
Many people are hoping this.
You probably will.
I see a lot of Roglic thirst traps on Twitter. People are crying out for this. Also, during the Tour de France, someone described Jai Hindley as the twink of the week. So gay Twitter would go crazy if we had a Hansgrohe shower appearance from Jai Hindley in marketing some point soon.
Okay, I'm not going to ask what twink is, but
all the viewers are Google that one.
But anyways, moving on. Before we go into some interesting segment about the new season, we also have still transfers going on. Who would have thought? And I mean, Ewan, who's been transferring in these late parts of the season? Well, it's start of the new year, so it's not even...
It's kind of chaotic at the moment. So strong rumors are saying that Edvald Boasson-Hagen is moving to the Decathlon Age des Airs Mondial for the new year from Total. This man had another contract in him.
Yeah, who?
He keeps going. And he's not
Uno X was like where I thought he was going to go. Finally united with Christoph.
That doesn't make sense. But like for some reason, they're like, nah. Also, this would be him returning to the World Tour level, which I think would be like miraculous. There's a bit of a team crisis at Team Visma Lease Bike. Michel Hessman might be serving a suspension next year. And in order for Visma Lease Bike to reach the quota of World Tour riders, they need to have one more rider in their books. They do have a development team, and that should be quite an easy way of bringing someone up. But rumors are spreading about who could they fit in as their last rider if Michel Hessman is banned in the next year. And this has started a whole rumor mill. Julien Vermote has been mentioned, as have other riders without World Tour contracts for next year. There's plenty kicking about. So that one does sort of leave a door open, but they've had their team launch already, so I suspect that one's maybe dying out. Hermann Pernstein, a top 10 of the Vuelta a couple of years back, or was it the Giro? One of them. He's moving to Team Felbinier, as is Sebastian Schernberger, two Austrian riders. Schernberger, who was quite a good, promising rider at B&B Hotels. He's moving down a notch as well. Similarly, Barnabas Payak is moving to Adria Mobile, which is a bit of a sad one. Payak was in the World Tour level, rode the Giro when it was in his home nation of Hungary. Really sort of fun rider as well, got a great personality. He moved to Human Powered Health last year, but their men's team died, and a lot of their riders had to scramble for new contracts. He has a new contract, but just with Adria Mobile on the continental level. So expect to see him at the Tour of Slovenia and the Crow Race very soon.
I'm still shocked about Edvald Boasson-Hagen. I didn't even realize he was still riding. I thought he retired. Patrick, anything to share on those transfers?
Honestly, how is the transfer season still going? Like, what is going on? We need to have, like, where there's like a start and an end. We need to have a start and an end, because it started in August transfers, and we're still going. Can we have like a designated month where everything happens. Actually, no, maybe scrap that because then we run out of stuff to talk about. A designated 3-month period where it can all happen, and then it stops because it's just anarchy. And none of them are massively moving the needle for me. Ed Balboas and Harlequin would have made more sense at UNOX, but for some reason they just hate him and they're just trying to out him as just, well, for whatever reason. I don't know. They were just, they're just, yeah, but whatever.
Maybe they thought they had too many riders in that position.
Maybe they thought they caught too many Norwegian people.
Yes. Danish takeover, UNOX. I mean, we might as well move on to, well, the new season is almost upon us, 2024. Which riders are you guys most excited about in terms of anyone? And we'll get on to Neo Pros afterwards.
I'm excited for Theo Gegenhardt at Lidl Trek, since, as we all know, that COVID Giro doesn't actually count. In my eyes, he hasn't won a Grand Tour.
Whoa. Okay, I have to defend a Brit against 2 Brits here. Ewan is very silent on this point, I can hear.
Listen, do you remember who else finished in the top 10 of that Giro? Wasn't Jakob Fuglsang in there?
And
he's never finished in the top 10 of a Grand Tour, basically.
He was going to win the 2019 Tour de France. Mark my words. If he crashed on stage 1.
Woulda, shoulda, coulda. Like, he didn't. He decked it on stage 1 or 2, and he...
Stage 1.
Exactly. Would have won the 2021 Tour de France if he didn't crash on stage 1 as well.
But that's very true. But anyway, my point. Theo Gegenhardt, very promising last year, was probably going to do pretty good at the Giro, but then crashed out like stage 10-ish, something like that. Neval's TT. He crashed out at some point, and I just think that he's got this like momentum. I feel like he was getting some really good momentum at the first half of the year at like Tirreno, Valenciano, etc. I think that he could honestly... I think he's going to the Tour. I think that he could be top 5. I know that I think maybe through some miracle he starts tussling it with the big boys. I just think that he's been a real late developer into the sport. Like, he had a few years of a start where just things weren't really working, but it seems like he's finally gaining some traction. And I think that Lidl Trek are definitely a team on the up. Lots of good signings. And I think that Theo could be riding that wave. So I'm very excited about Theo in general as a GC prospect.
Okay, I'm going to be boring. Matteo Jorgensen for Visma Lease Bike. I know I sang his praises a couple of weeks back, but I think he's at a really good point in his career to make a huge sort of standout moment in 2024. Last year, he showed some sort of huge signs of improvement. Tour of Oman overall win, being up there in top 10 at a number of big races like Paris-Nice, even like Idri, Harelbeke. He was right up there in the Tour of Romandy as well. Him as sort of a Swiss Army knife rider, maybe with the new Visma setup, he could really reach that next step in his career. A bit like could have Christophe Laporte a couple of years back when he moved to Visma Lease Bike. He had that new lease of life. I think Jorgensen could really become one of the most defining domestiques of 2024. He's a great climber. He can read a race well, likes to go in breakaways. Also pretty good at the classics. I'm super, super excited to see what he's going to bring to the table.
Okay, Remco Van der Poel, him at the Tour is going to be exciting, maybe. Josh Charling potentially being favorite to win the Olympics. Jonas Vingegaard going to maybe win his 3rd Tour de France, but the Tadej Pogačar, the whole season that he's lined up, the Merxian season, if he pulls it off, and yeah.
To expect so much. Like, Pogačar just knows going to do well, so I'm just like...
World champion Mathieu Van der Poel as well.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, there's also names I'm excited about.
Primoz Roglic at Bora. Like, is that going to sink or swim?
To be fair, that is going to be a cool narrative. Him against kind of like Jumbo. Kind of like, you know, first time he's been out of that team for 5 years or whatever. That'll be really interesting to see with Bora, especially just as like a player in the kind of Galacticos scene, will be really interesting.
I'm going to say someone quite rogue. Timo Kielich on Alpecin-Koenig.
That's a good shout.
Good. Well, he's been doing cyclocross over the past couple of years. Now he has jumped up onto, he's now on the World Tour team. He was riding for the Alpecin-Koenig development team for the past couple of seasons. And He won quite an impressive sprint last year at the Tour of Wallonia, and he's been looking sort of like a really promising sprinter. Maybe with that World Tour backing behind him, we know Alpecin Deceuninck can just sort of rush up a sprinter. I think Timo Gillick could really be that guy. Maybe wins a World Tour race this year, maybe one of these lower level sprints, but becomes a bit of a sort of sprinting superstar in the style of sort of Gerber Thijssen at that kind of B sort of street C-list level.
I'm just going to spew out some other names to round up mine a little bit. Arnaud de Lee, because he's going to the Tour.
Oh, we haven't named him for a lot of episodes.
You know, he's been a real sensational talent, and I think that, you know, we're seeing a lot of one-day races, obviously successful there, but yeah, seeing him at the biggest stage is going to be really cool. Of course, I have to shout Mauro Schmidt, because I'm like big fan. Going to Jayco, I think that he'll be better without the kind of quick step, just didn't really seem to work too well, and I think that he could be like a really good Ardennes rider. I think we saw some flashes of good form last year, but I think that there's definitely more to come. And also a last one is Riley Sheehan, who won Paris Tours, that American, and then did really well like the 2 Japanese races as well. Just like an unknown. Such an unknown. Nobody knew anything about him until those races, and I'm really interested to see whether he's just going to like burst onto the scene and just to start slamming it in the gutter and being just a sensational world-beating talent, or was it just like a little just blip just in the spectrum? So really interested to see what he's going to do as well for Israel Premier Tech. Should be a good rider for the classics in theory, but wait and see.
Have you seen Arnaud de Lee's provisional? It's massive. His March and February are packed with one-day races. He's going to go to the Amstel Gold as well, the Branches Pile, Frankfurt race, Tour de Suisse, the Tour de France, the 2 Canadian races. But like from pretty much, before Omloop, he's going to start his year in one of the Spanish races.
Like Almeria or something.
Murcia. So
okay.
I think that's a one-day race now. It's not even a stage race anymore. It used to be back in the day. Then Almeria, then Omloop, then basically all the way down to Paris-Roubaix. So he's doing Paris-Roubaix and Ronde as well. So
wow.
Yeah, 21 years old, and this calendar is insane.
Yeah. He's like the golden boy for Soudal Destiny. It's all they're called now. Lotto Destiny. Can't remember. But yeah, he should just be like, who can forget that Quebec performance where he was just like ripped it with like a 200-meter sprint uphill. Like he's so versatile, but like he doesn't look like he should get over climbs, and yet he does. I think that he could be a real, like even like green jersey at the Tour. Like he could be like, he's very much like Mads Pedersen. Like he could be a super big threat, just hitting it just immediately. So really exciting to see what he can do.
I think 2024 is quite a big year for Biniam Girmay as well. Obviously, it wasn't the greatest year last year because of crashing on the Tour of Flanders. Still winning a stage at the Tour de Suisse, coming close to a Tour de France stage, but it's just like we had that explosive hype, and then it's kind of gone a bit down, and he's just kind of crept into the back consciousness on the cycling fan, and I think this is the time to step up. I think he's going to be 24, 25 this year as well. So
importantly as well, I think this is a really crucial year for him because he needs to stand out in that squad, because they got Gerber Thijssen, they got Arne Marit, who was really good in the second half of last year. Hugo Page is rising through the ranks as well, talented young French sprinter. He needs to stick out to Intermarché and prove his worth, especially after the Tour de France when they put so many resources into him. They didn't get much in return. Marit's got more top 10s at the Giro than Bini got at the Tour de France, for instance. So he really needs to sort of step things up. I know you can't quite compare them, but if Marit begins next season in really, really good form with Thijssen as well, do they take precedent over Biniam Girmay when it comes to a Tour de France setup? He needs to stand out.
Chris Froome, is he going to be doing anything?
Oh, come on, come off it. We can't.
Don't bring this podcast down, please.
Yeah, okay. Where else are we looking? Well, we're talking enough about Chris Froome in terms of he's just damaging his own legacy. But who else is there? Movie star with Nairo Quintana? Is that?
Oh, yeah.
I'm intrigued about Davide Formolo, to be honest. I know, because I always sing his praises, but I think I'm really intrigued to see how he'll go, because at UAE he was really strong as a domestique, and in the past 2 years they didn't really collaborate him with Pogacar, which was strange given how well they worked in the previous 2 seasons. Now he's away from UAE. He had a good, strong finish to last season with the win of the Veneto Classic. Is Davide Formula going to jump back up and become a breakaway sort of star once more at the Grand Tours?
Astana Kazakhstan team as well. How do you see them playing out? Obviously, podcast favorite Alexei Lutsenko. We don't quite know where he's going. We were kind of trying to push him towards the Giro d'Italia. He has 41 victories. I didn't even realize.
41 glorious moments. You remember them all fondly.
I remember every single one.
But yeah, the Kazakh double champ, I think. Maybe a lot of those are national championships, those victories. I think Mark Cavendish is going to be an interesting narrative. Everyone wants it to happen. Will it happen? Probably not. Jasper Philipsen as well, most wins last year in terms of any rider. Is this going to be him like stepping on the gas even more?
Well, now as well, some of his opposition has changed. Jakobsen's moved to DSM Femini. Who knows how that's going to work? Merlier is probably not going to get a Tour de France start because of the Evenepoel project. That opens up the door a little bit for the man you just said, Philipsen. I think he's definitely like that paradigm shift for him to become the number 1 sprinter in the world has happened. The ball has rolled. I think he is probably going to consolidate that in 2024. Who else really is there? Dylan Groenewegen. I think he kind of lost his way last year, and the year before he was maybe the 3rd, 4th best sprinter. Who else are we throwing in? Maybe Olaf Koy can step up to become a top 3 sprinter in 2024.
It's true.
But he's not making the Tour de France.
Koy going to the Giro, that's a big excitement as well. Interested, Caleb Ewan maybe just going back to Jayco will ignite something of his kind of glory speedy days of Caleb Ewan. I mean, if he puts Philipsen into the curb like he did with that other dude, he's definitely going to win the sprint. So, yeah, Caleb Ewan's exciting, like, enough, I think, as well. I don't know, I feel like I could just name everyone.
I mean, in terms of Neopros, we might as well start with UAE Team Emirates because they've hoovered up 2 of the biggest names, Morgado and Isaac Del Toro, the Toro Lavinia winner from Mexico, obviously. Other than that, really, obviously, Isaac Del Toro is going to be at the Tour Down Under as well. So is Morgado. But are there any other names? I mean, Patrick's pretty high on Archie Ryan and the Liège-Bastogne-Liège under-23 winner for Intermarché as well. But Ewan, is there anyone you're looking towards?
Emil Herzog from Germany has been really promising over the past couple of years. He's moved to Bora Hansgrohe this year, was riding for Hagensberg Action last year and the year before with the Bora Hansgrohe development team. He's making it to the World Tour level. He won the men's junior road race at the World Championships in 2022 and had a sort of barnstorming season that year, winning the Ambougie Tour. He won the Peace Race for the junior level, as well as the Giro di Primavera. So I'm really sort of hyped on Herzog to see where he's going to see what progress he can make. We have seen Bora Hansgrohe slip some talent under the radar over the past couple of years because they have had a lot of really promising international talent come in. But Herzog is sort of homegrown. They've had him for a while now. They'll know how strong he's going to be. Similarly, in that setup, you have Hayek as well, who's making his jump up at Bora, but I mean, there are plenty of other teams. I mean, Jumbo-Visma, Visma Lease Bike have swept up a lot of big talent. Per Strand Hagenes, I mean, we've spoken about him so much with Johannes Stanamittet as well. They're making their World Tour debut this year, and we're expecting to see them at the Giro. So that will be really exciting to see how those young Norwegians step up to the plate.
I'm going to say it again, but Francesco Bassato, like Scott alluded to, the under-23 Liège winner, riding for Intermarché. Actually, his schedule is already up, which is absolutely wild for a 21-year-old, but he's going to a lot of the Mallorca races, and then he's doing Strade, Catalunya, Basque Country, he's doing the Ardennes, Tour de Suisse, Britannia Classic. The closest thing I can draw him to is he's very similar to Brian Cockard. He's that sprinter who's rather insanely good at climbing as well. So that's kind of, I'm really excited to see kind of what he can do. Although I do fear that Intermarché have a lot of sprinting and semi-sprinting type talents. So hopefully he gets his own little niche there. Herstand Hagenens for Jumbo. Visma Lease Bike. But again, similar sort of scenario. They've got such a world-beating classic squad. Where does Hagenens fit into that? course, he was the winner of the Munsterland Giro. So he's an exciting one to be looking out for as well. Darren Rafferty for EF Education Easypost, alongside Archie Ryan, who I guess we haven't given him enough airtime yet. But Archie Ryan, I think he's probably one which I'm most excited about, just because he's already dabbled in a little bit of like pro races, like he's succeeded in those already, so he's kind of set to take an immediate step up, whereas sometimes you see with neopros to take a year to really kind of bed in and get used to the World Tour style of racing. So I think that Archie Ryan could certainly hit the ground running at the down under. We'll wait and see. Darren Rafferty, I'm not too sure. I feel like he'll exceed in some races, but probably kind of still quite like a learning year. What do you guys think about, I mean, we talked about Del Toro a little bit, kind of mentioned his name. What do you expect from him this year? Is UAE just so saturated with talent that he's not going to get anything?
They fielded him and Morgado both to the Tour Down Under, which is interesting that they've sent them all that way for their first World Tour race. It gives them a chance to see how they perform at the World Tour level, potentially, and see what they can do in that kind of bunch and with that kind of opposition. If they can stand out there, then that's fantastic. I think Morgado in particular could stand out at the Tour Down Under with the sort of profiles that we're going to be seeing next week. For Del Toro, I mean, I guess he's just going to have to try to find his way into some of these like Spanish stage races and some of these smaller stage races that are going to come up in the coming weeks, maybe the Middle Eastern ones as well, so he can go there and try to stand out and prove his worth within UAE, because they've also got, I mean, Jan Christen's just joined the squad as well. You got Finn Fisher-Black, who's looking to make it more of a breakout. Though he's not quite the pure climber that Del Toro is, but there's a lot of talent there, and it's going to be hard to get a Grand Tour start in the next 2 years for one of these young guys, because that team is just bursting with so much talent and so many leaders and so many valuable domestiques on their roster.
Yeah, and he probably won't get a Grand Tour, but like you say, like a Ruta del Sol, Valenciana, that kind of thing, he'd be really good to go towards. One final name from me, Luke Lamperty, because he's at Soudal Quickstep, which, as we all know, sprinters go to Soudal Quickstep and their predecessors and stuff like that. And they usually turn out pretty good, so we'll wait and see what happens with Lamperty as their new sprinting talent. With Merlier really as their only other sprinter, I think that Lamperty will get enough opportunities, so I think we'll see him fairly consistently, so I'm quite excited about that. With the sprinters, you usually see them immediately. It's not like a climber who takes a bit of time to kind of improve. Like, the sprinters are like immediately in the game. UAE Tour, get a top 10.
What about, there's a few 18-year-olds as well electing to do a Remco, skipping the under 23 step. The Centesenians, I probably butchered that name. This is the rider that you guys were quite high on. Actually, no, he's not going up to World Tour. Sorry, 2025. Next year. But Bellocchi, Markel Bellocchi, the son of Josipa Bellocchi, is going to be riding for the EF Education Easypost team, which is the World Tour, obviously. It's not the development team. 18 years old, I still think like a development year would have been good. 18 seems very young to just get an all-starter and could be like burnout by the time you're 29. Or is this EF Education Easypost trying to win the rat race with these youngsters so he doesn't end up in Movistar, UAE or Jumbo? Or a Spanish rider, Jumbo?
And I know it's an odd one. I just don't really expect anything from 18-year-olds as a rule. Like Evenepoel,
just anything, just nothing.
Yeah, literally no. But they'll just don't expect anything. I think Evenepoel was absolutely like the one in a million who you could expect something from in the first season. Especially the ones that go to Ineos, do not expect anything from them. Probably for like the rest of their career, because Ineos will probably just kill them off. To be honest with you. Oh, sorry, like what's his name? Andrew August, Theodore Storm, in the same way that Michael Leonard has been murdered by Ineos, in the same way that Leo Hayter has as well. They're all going to end up just shipping off to different teams because Ineos are absolutely awful at developing talent. So I'm sorry, but they are going to suffer badly. And tell me the last Ineos project, which has like worked out really well.
You're Charlie. Boom.
He's 19. It don't count. No, because he's just a time trial. He's a time trialist.
Just a time trialist.
These guys who are like, because Ineos try and forge everybody into a GC rider for some reason. I don't know why, they just do. they'll be looking to Magnus Sheffield and try and make him win the Tour next time round or something. Like, honestly, wouldn't surprise me.
What about French names in terms of
Alexis Post at Intermarché, second place at the Val d'Aosta, was it?
Yeah.
He was top 20 at Tour de Land. Let me double check. Yes, second place at Val d'Aosta. Was up there a couple of stages at the Baby Gino as well. We finished 5th place in GC. He's 19 years of age. He signed for 3 years at Intermarché. That's a decent French name to come through, and he's not signed for Groupama Français des Jeux or Decathlon, which is interesting.
what about the one you called the next coming of Alaphilippe?
Manier. I honestly I have no idea what to expect from Manier. He's 19 at the moment.
It's taller than Alaphilippe.
They improvement.
10 centimeters at least. Magny is kind of like I feel he's a bit of a slow burner. I think he'll be able to go. You have to wait like 2 years or something to see something from him. I don't think he's going to be the one to be hitting out the gates. Whereas Van der Poel, that guy's coming top 10 at the Mont Ventoux Challenge. That's what's going on there. That's like an immediate de facto. That's what's happening there. Just simple as. Other French talent, I don't know, Eddie Louis Touz, Nolan Mahoudou. Honestly, I've never really heard of these guys. Antoine Hubie's going to Soudal or Quickstep. Axel Laurence kind of is stepping up to World Tour, the under-23 champ, but it's kind of like a grey area because he's competed already for Alpes and Deceuninck in high-level races, so it's kind of like a maybe not, but Axel Laurence is technically making his World Tour debut, so under-23 world champ. Very excited to see what he can do. He should get his own kind of space. Van der Poel and Philipsen can't do everything, Surely not.
I mean, let me take you back to 2019, the Junior Worlds road race in Yorkshire. There's a Colombian rider who's at the back. He can't get his wheel. Cries, viral sensation. He's going to be a Polti Kometa rider next year.
Congratulations.
So he has to wear that kit.
All right. Rider of the week?
You don't want to talk about anyone else.
Well, we're right. 1 hour.
We've covered everyone.
Yeah. In a week of racing, who is your rider of the week?
Who's going to say his name?
Craig Harper.
Damn it.
It has to be Mathieu Van der Poel or Luke Plapp.
I'm going to go for Luke Plapp.
Not Cameron Mason. Oh,
I've done that before. Luke Plapp won 2 events on the road.
You know what? Just because I don't think I've picked him for any of them, despite how many times he's been winning recently, I'll go with Van der Poel.
Oh my goodness! Now I have to think outside the box. Ugh.
Because he rode the one sandbank that nobody else could, and then flew off into the distance and won once more. I'm sure we will all remember this victory forever.
Fine. I'm going to go for Pin Run Hard for getting in between Mathieu Van der Poel and Wout van Aert on Cookscheider. Well, anyways, that's been it for our 50th episode. Quite a lot of things to cover. Still not in the season, as we say. But if you haven't already, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel here on YouTube, and also, why not give us a 5-star review on Spotify as well? That would help us a lot. And as always, thank you for watching, and we will see you next week.